record right now, and then I am going to share my screen so that we can all see the same information. Can you see the PowerPoint? If I can get a thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you so much. So you all are here because you plan to, hopefully, fingers crossed, student teach spring 22. It's really crazy to say spring 22 when we're in spring of 21. And I don't even know where 2020 went. So I don't know what semester I'm in, what month it is, what year it is. The other day I wrote 2019 on a piece of paper. I don't even know. It's like, okay, I don't know what year we're in. So, but just think how crazy it is. 1 year from now, you all will be almost done with your student teaching. That is so crazy that in 1 year, you'll be done student teaching or almost done student teaching. So I'm hoping that I can help answer your questions. You might be like the girl on the screen going, oh my gosh, I have so many questions. I'm so nervous. I'm scared. What do I do? And I'm hoping I can answer those. So I'm going to just chug right along. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to stop me at any time. So the Office of Field Experiences and the Office of Licensure, we are going to be your main points of contact throughout the next couple of semesters as you are getting ready for student teaching, as you are during, in the whole student teaching process, and then when you are completed with your student teaching. So Danny Smith is the director, I'm Megan Lenz, the assistant director, and the two of us can help answer questions, especially about the application or placements and whatnot for student teaching. Christy Steinberg is our licensure and assessment manager, and she is the person who will go through your student teaching application and conduct what we call an audit of your file. And essentially, she's going through and making sure that you've completed all of the coursework that you need in order to student teach and get licensed, because ultimately that's what we want. We want all of you to be licensed teachers. And so she wants to make sure that you've completed the proper coursework so that we can get you to that point. So between the three of us, we should be able to hopefully answer all of your questions. I do want to make sure, I didn't say this at the beginning, I will send everybody a PDF version of this PowerPoint when we are done. So if you want to take notes, you most certainly can, but I will send this to you so that you can have it as a reference as well. Because if you were in a session face-to-face like we used to do back in the day, back in like 2019, like the year that I wrote down the other day, I would have handed you a hard copy of this. Okay, moving right along. So our objectives today are to overview the student teaching experience, overview the application process itself, and then when you are done with this session, you're going to complete an intent to student teach form. And that intent is just for me and our office to have an idea of who might be student teaching. It's not a binding contract. Things change, life changes. So it's just for us to have an idea of who might be turning in their applications, who might be student teaching. So it's just something for us to have, and I will be putting that in the chat at the end of this presentation. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I thought I hit the button too many times. Okay, so student teaching is your capstone experience. It is what you will be doing at the end of your, well, I don't want to say at the end of your education, because I'm hoping that you continue to be lifelong learners, just like myself, but at the end of this portion of our teacher prep program. So it's your capstone experience, and it's 16 weeks. It follows the semester, and you will be assigned 4 letter grades for your student teaching experience. Those 4 letter grades are going to be based on the Charlotte Danielson framework, which you have all had experience in, whether you're in elementary, level 1, level 2, and then in level 3 you'll do it as well, or if you're a secondary K-12 person in your 202s and 395s. So you will have had experience in the Charlotte Danielson framework and how you will be graded for your student teaching. You'll receive those 4 letter grades: planning and preparation, classroom classroom environment, instruction, and professional responsibilities, and you'll get those 4 letter grades in those 4 domains. You will also have a 1 credit, no credit, applied research and reflective practice project. We will talk about that in much greater detail at your orientation seminar for student teaching, but essentially you'll be working with a College of Ed faculty member to do a research type of project, and you'll be reflecting on it and whatnot. So that is something that you can keep in mind for as you are moving forward too. So you'll have, if you're an undergrad, 14 credits for those 4 letter grades, and then the 1 credit, no credit. If you're a grad student, it's 8 in those 4 areas, and then 1 credit for the applied research and reflective practice. Are there questions about this little overview? Okay. So there are many assignment variations. It's not strictly just, okay, everybody's in this one column and here we go. There are a lot of varieties, and so we have all these wonderful variations. We have elementary, people are just straight elementary, straight early childhood, or secondary, like 1 minor or 1 major, like an English major or a math major. If you fall into that case, you follow that 16-week placement. Start of the UM semester, end of the UM semester, 16 weeks, that's your student teaching. Then we have some of you who are K-12 music, HHP, or art majors. If that is you, if I'm talking to you, you're going to do a split placement, and you're going to have 8 weeks in an elementary placement and then 8 weeks in either a middle school or high school placement, because you need to have that K-12 experience, that breadth of experience. So you will have a split placement. If you are a secondary double major or a major minor, you would have a co-placement. So you would have 2 cooperating teachers in 1 school setting. So maybe you're in history, a history major with an English minor. So maybe you would have 4 periods of history and 2 periods of English, 2 different teachers, and then you would just split your day accordingly. So you would just have a co-placement in that 1 school setting. Is there anybody doing special education or adding special education? I'm looking at pictures. Don't see any thumbs up or anything, but I am just going to touch on this in case you happen to fall in that category. If you are doing special education, you would do a 10-week placement. Typically, it's an elementary or a secondary person. They're adding the special education. So we would take 16 weeks and we would add the 10. That is 26 weeks. That's a long time. What we've been able to do is truncate that 16 weeks down to 12, and then we add the 10. So instead of 26, it's 22, and we get you into your general education, whether it's elementary or secondary, and then the special education. So just keeping that in mind. And then if you are, in those very rare cases, a secondary and elementary double major, it's a variable placement, and we just work with students individually in that case, because there's, like I said, a variable. There's many variations in what field experiences you have completed, what you still need, and so we work with those students individually to make sure that we address all of those needs. Are there any questions about assignment variations? No? Okay. So moving on to placement options. You have options for student teaching placements. I wish that I had known that I had options for when I went through the program. I thought, well, I live in Missoula, I have to student teach in Missoula, and this is going to be my placement, and that's what it is. You have options, and this is the time to start thinking about it, because we're, like I said, a year in advance, so start thinking about those different options. So we do place locally, and our local placements are within a 50-mile radius. And the reason being is we place so many of you, on average 500, 600, 700 of you in an academic year. And if we placed every single one of you in Missoula proper itself, we would burn out all of our placements. We would not have any placements. So we have to spread that umbrella out and go to a 50-mile radius. So what that looks like is we go St. Ignatius, Seeley Lake, Drummond, Hamilton, Alberton, and we draw this big circle around Montana, and that's our 50-mile radius. Now students freak out and go, oh my goodness, you're going to place me in Hamilton? I can't do 50 miles. We also look at things like, oh, we have a good group of students who commute from the Bitterroot to the main campus, so they want to be placed in the Bitterroot. We're going to place them in the Bitterroot first. Or we have some students who live up in the Mission Valley and they want to be placed in the Mission Valley. We're going to do that as well. But I can tell you that we had one semester, it was a very, very large student teaching group. I mean, probably one of the largest I've seen in my 14 years. And we had to place out. We had to get our students out there. And Corvallis said, hey, we will take 5, 6, 10, we'll take as many as you want to send to us. And we ended up placing 5 students in Corvallis, and they set up a carpool. And they carpooled, and so you only had to drive 1 week out of the month, and that ended up only being like 2.5 weeks out of your student teaching where you actually had to drive. So just kind of keep those things in mind, that that's our local placements. Then we have anything in the state of Montana. Beyond that 50 miles, you can go anywhere. And so you can definitely go anywhere in the state of Montana. That is completely an option. And so that's just something to keep in mind too, that we will place anywhere in Montana. Just a second, something came up in the chat. So let me read it really quick. So the question actually is for student teaching out of state and the split placement, and we do that definitely. We have students who are actually K-12 placements being out of state currently, and we would do an 8-week and an 8-week out of state as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so then out of state, we're jumping to out of state. Out of state is an option for sure for you all, but there are some things to keep in mind. Out of state, you need to have at least a 3.0 GPA in your major and cumulative. So keep in mind that those are 2 different GPAs. Your major is going to be on your major requirements page, and then your cumulative is what shows up on your transcript. It'll say cumulative GPA is blah, blah, blah. It needs to be in both of those areas, and we can talk about that and factoring that all out. But you have to have at least a 3.0 GPA in both of those. And then you have to have 2 recommendation forms. When I get to the website, I will show you all of our different applications, and I will show you where the out-of-state requirements page is, where those recommendation forms are located. The recommendation forms need to be filled out, one by a teaching and learning professor and one by a cooperating teacher. So just keeping those in mind, that you'll have to have those 2 recommendation forms. Out of country has been an option in the past with everything that is currently happening in the world. We're on hold for the moment for the current, obviously, semester and for autumn semester, because those applications came and have gone. But there is potential that things could open up where international student teaching could be an option. If you are one of those people that is thinking about international student teaching, please send me an email and we can have an individual conversation about that. It's really important to keep in mind that if you are planning to go out of state or internationally, we do ask that you show independence and leadership skills. The reason being, we cannot be as readily available as those of you that are in Montana. In Montana, we're all in the same time zone, but I have had students who have been, 2-3 hours ahead of me, 8, 12 hours ahead of me. And if they have a question and they're calling and emailing and calling and emailing, I might not be in the same time zone. I can't answer that question so readily available, and neither can Danny. So we're hoping that you can, use that independence and leadership, hopefully problem solve as much as possible. Then when we are available, we can answer your questions. Okay? Any questions yet? Everybody seems good so far. Perfect. Moving on. Okay, so working during student teaching. I can't tell you can't work during student teaching. I know that when I went through the program, they said, no, you can't work during your student teaching. Well, guess what? I worked because I had bills to pay, and I'm sure you have bills to pay. So I can't tell you that you can't work, but what I'm hoping is that because we are a year in advance, I can tell you work as much as you can now over the summer and fall semester if possible, so that you can reduce your workload during student teaching. So save as much as you can. If you applied for scholarships, hopefully you did, you can get some of those, or grants, or student loans, whatever you might need to do so that you can reduce your workload and focus on student teaching, because student teaching should be your main point and main focus for that last semester. Now, taking courses during student teaching. You should not have to take any courses during student teaching. You should have everything completed. But there are rare occasions, very rare occasions, where you might have to take a class during student teaching. Maybe you were supposed to take a class, it got canceled, and then it was supposed to be offered here, and then it got canceled. Then it got offered here, and then it got canceled. I know, it happens. If you are in that situation and there's a class that you have to take during student teaching and you're an undergrad, you would petition. So you would fill out our program exception form that would get sent before the Field Experiences Committee, and then it would get approved or denied. Things to keep in mind, it would have to be an online or an evening course, because you can't leave your student teaching to take a course. So that's just something to keep in mind. Graduate students, you're a little bit different because grad classes are offered in the evening or online. You just will want to make sure that you're speaking with your advisor to make sure that you can properly balance a grad course on top of your student teaching experience. Any questions? Okay, moving right along. So, the student teaching application process. There are 5 steps, and I can tell you that 2, possibly 3 of them can be completed today. And if you are like me and you like to check things off the checklist, hey, is it Haley? Okay, good. I just want to make sure it was Haley. You're shaking your head and you're probably like me. I like checklists. I will even write something on a checklist that I've already done just so that I can check it off. Okay, good. I'm not the only person. It's that sense of accomplishment, like, yes, I checked that off. So guess what? The first step, you guys can check off. You're attending a Spring 22 information seminar, so you can check that one off. Step 2, you will be completing the intent to student teach form when you are finished with this seminar. So you'll be able to check that one off as well. And then step 3, when we jump to the website, you can jump to the website and you can download the handbook and save it to your desktop. And guess what? 3 steps are going to be done today. So just keep that in mind. So step 4 is going to be completing the application packet, which will include forms, professional documents, and supporting documents. And I will walk us through all of those parts and pieces in just a moment. And then step 5 will be actually submitting everything to Teacher Education Services. So I'm going to walk you through all of this wonderful information. So just hold on. As my 7.5-year-old used to say when he was about 4 or 5, if we were getting ready to do something fast, he'd be like, hold on to your buckets. So ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your buckets because I'm going to be cruising through some information. But again, stop me if you have questions. So step 4 was compiling the application packet in those 3 parts, which are the forms, professional documents, and supporting documents. And I'm going to talk about the application forms themselves right now. So you don't have to write all these steps down because I will be sending you this PDF PowerPoint, but I will walk us, I'm going to jump onto the College of Ed website in a second, and I will walk us through all of these steps on how to get to the forms so that you can download them and complete them electronically. Handwritten applications will not be accepted. And what's really great, these used to be Word documents, but we have converted them to fillable PDFs, so hopefully they're more user-friendly. If you run into a situation where it's not working correctly, please email me, but I haven't. I've tested them out. They should all work. Fingers crossed they all work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my screen share for a moment, and I am going to jump onto the College of Ed website here, if I can get my computer to work properly. Let's see if I can share my screen. Can you all see the College of Ed website? Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do first is we're going to jump to degrees and programs on the College of Ed website. And then we're going to go into teaching and learning. Everybody's still following along? It's still working? Okay. I have 2 computer screens, so I'm looking at you guys, but I'm operating over here, and I just want to make sure that what I'm doing you're actually seeing. So on the teaching and learning, you'll go down to field experiences, and then from field experiences, student teaching, and then application materials. I know it's about a bajillion clicks later, but that's just the way that the website was created, and it was created by somebody who was higher up than me. So I just do what I'm told. So here is the application materials portion of the website. And it even kind of talks about the same information here. Attending an information seminar. You guys are doing that right now. Downloading the handbook. So right here, you're going to click on this and you're going to download it. It's going to be a ginormous PDF. Can you see this PDF? Okay, perfect. It's 131 pages. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not asking you to print this, okay? Save it because you're going to have information in here. You're going to need to refer to information in here. So save it. There will be 2 pages specifically though that you will have to print from this. So you will have to do a find and you will have to find 2 pages that need to be printed, but save this to your desktop. This is your handbook for student teaching. You do not need to purchase any other books. This is your textbook for student teaching, okay? So back on the website, we're going to talk about deadlines in a little bit, but those deadlines are here. And then all of the applications are located right here. We've got our elementary, undergrad, post-bac application, our early childhood post-bac and undergrad, our grad application. And then we also have our secondary and K-12 undergrad post-bac and our secondary K-12 grad application. So you're going to just need to open the appropriate one that applies to you, and then you'll fill it out. So I'm just going to open up the elementary one first. And in this application, it is only 8 pages long. 8 pages. It's not even that long. The first 5 pages is information, and it essentially is all of the information that I am covering right now. So oftentimes students will say, well, what did you say about that? Or what was how do I do this? It's in these first 5 pages, okay? So make sure that you do read through those first 5 pages, and then hopefully that answers all of your questions, okay? It also talks about right here, the handbook and where to find it. You can click right here as well. You will read through the first pages talking about the timelines, the application information, what are those parts and pieces, and I'm covering those. The filling out the actual application forms that I will talk about in a minute, the supporting documents that I will go over, and then your professional documents, which I will go over as well. Calculating your GPA, because remember I did say we will be talking about GPA and calculations, so this talks about how to do that. And then every application has a checklist. You will want to make sure that you are referring to this checklist prior to submitting your application. So you'll just go through and you can just make sure that you check these boxes off. Okay, I've got all these boxes checked. I'm ready to turn in my application. So this is something that you can use to make sure you have everything. And then you're going to start filling in these forms. So you're just going to literally tab your way through the form, and you can just click, 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 fill, 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 and it will walk you right through it. You're going to tell me where you want to go, if you want a local placement, if you want a Montana out of area, and then you're going to put like, okay, I want to go to Kalispell, Whitefish, or Columbia Falls. If we have any distance candidates, if you are from Helena or Kalispell, and that's where you're wanting to go, you would just then do that you want that Montana city and then just put the outlying areas here. So Helena, East Helena, Montana city, whatever it might be. Or if you want to go out of state, okay, out of state, and I want to go to Washington and I want to go to Spokane, wherever it might be. And then you're going to tell me if you will or will not accept private religious schools, any other additional information that we need. And then after you print this application, because you're going to print it, then you can sign and date it, okay? Then you're going to get into the meat and potatoes of filling out your coursework. And so what you'll do here, and it even talks about it in those first 5 pages, is using abbreviations for the semesters and terms as you go through, and you can refer to your transcript and you're just going to start filling things in. So maybe I took college writing and it was Writ 101 college writing, but it was from Flathead Valley Community College. And it was 3 credits and I got an A-. Or maybe I took this class from UM, so I took it AU 18 and I got a B. You're just going to go through and you're going to type them in. So if you only took classes at UM, you would just be filling out the term and the grade. If you had an approved substitute from another institution or from the University of Montana, you would put the approved substitute, the institution, and use abbreviations here as well, the credits and the grades. If you get to classes that you currently are taking or have yet to take, such as elementary candidates, you will not have taken your level 3 when you turn in your application, or you'll be currently taking it because it'll be AU 21. So you'll just put AU 21, leave it blank. And then your student teaching will be SP22, leave the grades blank. So you'll just go through and fill those out. My elementary candidates, I'm going to pick on you right now. Okay, so if you're an elementary candidate, let's turn it on and listen. When it says elementary content GPA, that is only these first 40 to 43 credits. So when you are calculating your elementary content GPA, it is just this first page. You do not factor in any of this second page. It is just this first page. That's your elementary content GPA. Now, when it asks for your cumulative GPA, that's just what's going to show up on your transcript of all the coursework you've taken. Okay? Are there questions about filling out this application? I'm going to jump to the secondary one so that you can see that it's pretty similar, yet vastly different. The similarities is those first 5 pages are almost identical, so you will just read through those, follow them accordingly. There's a checklist here as well. The difference is that you're going to be putting your major and your minor in here. And then the coursework is going to be your education coursework. So this is what you're going to be putting here for your education coursework, because then you also, as a secondary major and or major minor, need to complete your major requirements forms. Okay, so I'm going to just pick on English because I know the English one quite well. You're going to open up the English and you're going to put in your English coursework. Then you factor your GPA, and this is your major GPA. So when I was talking about if you're going out of state, you need to have your content GPA and your cumulative GPA being a 3.0. So this would be this for secondary. For elementary, it would be that elementary content GPA. And then your cumulative is what shows up on your transcript. So another thing to keep in mind, secondary candidates, you will need a signature from your major department. So you need to plan accordingly to make an appointment with your advisor or department chair, whoever will be signing off on these, so that they can have time to review these. Do not wait until application deadline day to make these appointments, because I can tell you students have done that before, and then they come to me freaking out like, I can't get in to see my advisor for my signature. And it's like, well, did you set up an appointment prior to? You need to make sure that you are setting those appointments up so that they can review those in advance to the deadline day. If anybody is adding the special ed, you would do your elementary or secondary, and then you would do the special education right here that has the minor requirements. Anybody adding the reading as well, that is here. So here are the major and or minor requirements pages. Then if you are thinking about going out of state, here's the out of state student teaching requirements form or packet. It's 4 pages. It talks about what is required for out of state, again, talking about the GPA, preparing your application because you do have a little bit of extra homework. You need to do a web search and things like that. Looking at some other out of state things, some placement limitations. And then I said that there were 2 recommendation forms. Those are located on this little handout as well. Okay. If anybody is thinking about international, there is this international overview here as well. And then feel free to email me if you have additional questions about that. So are there questions about how to access the application and or fill it out? Okay. Jumping back to the PowerPoint, can you guys see the PowerPoint? Perfect. Okay, so remember that you'll need to download the handbook and save that. And then again, just be mindful of applications, of signatures on the applications that secondary, major, and or minors, you need to get those signatures accordingly. So now professional documents. We use professional documents to seek your placements. And so that is going to be a cover letter, a resume, and transcripts. And so let me break those down for you separately. So your cover letter is a professional cover letter. It is addressed to a school administrator, but not a specific school administrator. And that's really important to keep in mind because we may have to send your application to multiple schools. So you would want to say something like, Dear School Administrator. It's very general and very basic. And then you're going to explain a little bit about yourself. Like, my name is Megan Lenz. I'm an elementary education major. When I am completed with this program, I will be certified to teach K-8. My previous field experiences were here. My experience with children is this and this. And then at the end, I'm going to say something like, I really look forward to speaking to you about student teaching in your school. Never once did I specify a grade level or a school. I'm keeping it general because when we have individual interviews, which every single one of you will have, that is where you're going to express to either Danny or me what your specific wants and needs are for student teaching. Like, hey, Megan, I really would love to be in a K-3 placement. So you're going to tell me that. You're not going to put that in your cover letter. okay? Cover letters should be limited to 1 page. Make sure that your cover letter also includes contact information. So area codes on your phone numbers, and your personal emails are not accepted. We want your University of Montana emails. So if you submit your Gmail, your Yahoo, your Hotmail, AOL, do people still have those? We will tell you, sorry, you need to put your University of Montana email on here. So make sure that you have that on there as well. Okay, so again, keeping that to 1 page, making sure that you have somebody proofread it, and make sure that you are spelling principal correctly, because sure enough, every semester, and I've been doing this for almost 14 years, every semester I have at least one student who spells principal like the principle of life. And so that does not look very good when I'm sending it to a principal for a student teaching placement. So just keep that in mind. So then your resume should be 1 page as well. Your resume is not a narrative. It doesn't need to be long and super detailed. It should be literally an outline of, okay, here's my name and contact information, maybe my educational experience, and then field experience. This is what I did. Bop, bop, bop. Field experience. Here's what I did. Bop, bop, bop. Keeping it bullet, 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 bullet. It's not these long sentences. Like, I was in the 2nd grade and I helped tutor 3 students, and through those 3 students, I also worked on math and science. And they're going to be like, no, no, I don't want to see that. Ben, question.
Yes, I'm wondering, so this is just for like field experiences and things that we've done in like the education program, or does this include past employment as well?
For student teaching, I would keep it to field experiences unless your work experience has to do with children, like working with youth. I have some people who work in youth homes or work for Campfire or Boys and Girls Club, something like that. Then I would use it. And when you apply for a teaching job, you're going to want that. You're going to want to show that you have work history, but this is for your student teaching placement. So they're going to want to know your experience with children. Okay. So trying to
Awesome. Thank you.
No, not a problem. That's a great question. And actually, you're the first person to ask that, and this is my 4th session. So thank you for asking that.
Should we use the flagship then too?
Flagship was part of, if it was, I mean, it was definitely for elementary, part of your field experiences, but I would add it if it wasn't, because you were still working with children. So yes. With the resumes, again, keeping it to 1 page is a huge thing, and then just so they can skim it quickly and easily. So your cover letter, 1 page, resume, 1 page, then transcripts. We do not and will not accept CyberBear transcripts, because if you're somebody like me, they're 17 pages long, and administrators don't want to review 17 pages. What we will ask is for you to submit the transcript request form that is found in the handbook. You will print that 1 page. You will submit it to Teacher Education Services. Give me about a day or 2 to process it. Then you come back with a valid photo ID to pick it up, and it will literally be 1 or 2 pages. They're on landscape like this. It'll have your name. It'll have all of your coursework. It's listed like an official transcript, just on white paper. And then it'll have a stamp at the bottom that says unofficial transcript from Teacher Education Services. For the majority of you, it's 2 pages long. So then you have your cover letter, your transcript, and your resume, 4 pages. That's all. And those administrators can look through them really quickly and easily, and they can yay or nay student teaching placements pretty quickly, like so. Making sure, again, like I said, that you are having somebody proofread. The office Experiential Learning and Career Success Office, formerly known as Career Services, is a great resource for you. They will review cover letters and resumes. They will give edits. They will give all sorts of options. And if you are at a distance, they will do it via Zoom and help you edit your cover letter and resume. Okay? Because you will be doing two things. One, you will be submitting a hard copy. That hard copy comes with your student teaching application, but you are also going to create a PDF. So what you will do is you will scan your cover letter, resume, and transcripts, and you will make sure that those are then saved, cover letter, resume, transcripts, in a PDF, and you will name it last name Lens, comma, first name Megan, spring 22 student teaching. So your last name, comma, first name, and then spring 22 for student teaching. You will email that to that field experiences listed here. It's also on the application. And then those get saved, and that is what we use to recruit for your student teaching placement. I didn't say it on this previous one, but with that transcript request form, you're going to want to, like I said, make sure that you do that in advance. It does take a day or two to process those, so don't wait till application deadline day to submit the transcript request form or pick up your transcripts, because you're going to need to create this PDF, and so you'd have to come pick them up and then go leave and then come back, and I just don't want you to have to be wandering around campus a million times. Okay, are there questions about your professional documents?
Yeah, I have a question. Do you want all transcripts or just recent teaching transcripts, past degrees, past grad degrees? How far back do you want to go?
That is a very, very good question. If you are a post-bac or a grad student, we will need your bachelor's degree transcripts, because we're going to refer to that coursework, because that's what we're applying the education coursework to. So yes, and if you don't have access to that, I know you would have submitted it for your application to the teacher education program. You could always come to Teacher Education Services and we can grab a copy from your file. Other questions? Okay. So now supporting documents. Now I said that there were two forms you needed to print from the handbook. What was the first one that you need to print?
The transcript request form.
Ben, good job. You get a gold star. If I could put a gold star on your screen, I would. The second form that you will be printing from the handbook is the student agreement form. You will print that out. You will complete it. You will sign it. That gets included with your application materials. First aid and CPR certification is required for student teaching. I used to say online is not accepted. Well, guess what? Online has to be accepted now, because not very many facilities are offering hands-on experience. So like I said, COVID has thrown us through a loop and we just have to go with the flow. So we will accept online certification, but when you're reading through the application materials, we will only accept online certification from the Red Cross, and I have linked specifically the class that we will accept. So that is linked in the student teaching application itself for the online course that we will accept. Okay, so do keep that in mind. If you can find a facility that offers hands-on experience, I highly recommend it, only because I personally have taken a hands-on experience or hands-on class, and if I had not, may not have known how to do what I've had to do properly. Does that make sense? I've had to do first aid. I've had to do some CPR. I've had to do the Heimlich, and I learned that in a hands-on class, and so I don't know if I would have known how to do that by just clicking through. So if you can find a class that is physically hands-on, I highly recommend it. I can tell you the Nursing Nook here in Missoula is offering those hands-on classes. The YMCA is starting to offer more, and the Lifelong Learning Center might be offering some more as we're moving forward. So just kind of keep that in mind. Make sure that when you are registering for those courses, if you do take a hands-on class, that you are doing first aid and CPR. Sometimes it's only one or the other. Make sure that you are doing both. Now, background checks. Everybody had a background check when they were admitted to the program. Those background checks are only good for 2 years. So 95% of you have to get a new background check because it will expire before or like at the beginning of your student teaching, and we need it to be valid through your entire student teaching. So you will need to complete a new background check. And because of everything that's happening in the world, a lot of fingerprinting facilities are only doing appointment only. So pick up a fingerprint card the next time you are in the building. It has on there the sheriff's department and police department contact information so that you can call and schedule your fingerprinting appointment so that you can get fingerprinted. Then you can send it off to the DOJ. So plan accordingly. Don't wait until application deadline day to get those done. You want to plan in advance to get those done. Keep in mind
about that.
Okay, go ahead.
For the fingerprinting, are we allowed to do, like if I was to do it over the summer, am I allowed to do it out of state?
Oh, absolutely. Some states, though, have way stricter guidelines than we do for fingerprinting, meaning that their offices are not doing fingerprinting. So
Okay.
just plan accordingly.
I just know I have a brother who works at a police station and he can do the fingerprint.
Well, then do that. Yes. Do keep in mind that first aid, CPR, and background checks must be valid through your entire student teaching, and we must have evidence at the time of your application. So let's say you were planning on taking a in-person hands-on first aid and CPR class. You need to have completed that and show completion prior to the deadline. So if the deadline is on September 10th, you can't take a class on September 18th. You need to have already completed that. So just keep that in mind, okay? When it says on the application checklist, submitted a background check, I don't need anything. You just need to tell me when I ask you, did you initiate the new background check? Meaning, did you get fingerprinted? Has it been sent to the DOJ? That's all. You don't need to provide any documentation in there. Okay? So submitting your application. Once you have looked at your checklist and you have checked everything off and you're like, okay, I've got everything, you can submit your application. You will come to Teacher Education Services. Either Danny, Christy, or I will accept that application. We go through and we just check it off really quick. We have our own little checklist. We check it off, and then we will tell you about signing up for an interview. The interviews tend to happen a week to 2 weeks after the application deadline, and that's where, again, we'll go over your file, make sure everything's in order, and then we have that individual conversation about what your hopes are for your student teaching placement. Questions? Only just a few more slides left. You are doing wonderfully. So the deadline. The deadline is September 10th. We used to have multiple different deadlines, and it was kind of crazy. We'd have some early and some later, and we have tried to streamline everything, and every application is due on September 10th by 5 p.m. Now, I love when students submit their applications early. One, we can problem solve if there are any issues. Say you're missing a part or a piece. We have time to fix that. But two, I just love when students turn them in early. So if you want to turn it in early, I would love that. So September 10th, 5 p.m. If the 10th falls on a weekend or a holiday, applications are due the next business day. September 10th is a Friday, so we have no worries there. Incomplete and late applications will not be accepted. If you do not have all of the application components in at the appropriate deadline, including completion of first aid and CPR and your background check, you may have to defer your student teaching. So let's just get everything in and we won't have any issues, okay? So things to keep in mind as we move forward. Montana is a multiple measure assessment state. We take 3 measures into account when you are getting ready for licensure. We go over this at your student teaching interview, but we want to just kind of keep in mind that everybody has to take the praxis test. So we take your major GPA, we take your assessment during student teaching, and then we take your praxis scores. So just kind of put that in your head that you are going to need to take the praxis in order to get licensed in the state of Montana. If you have additional questions, you can always email us, but we will go over this individually with every single one of you at your student teaching interview. Okay? So graduation. Elementary and early childhood candidates, your graduation application is due with your student teaching application. The reason being, Christy Steinberg is the one that signs off on that. Secondary, your major department signs off on that. So on that checklist, elementary, it will say, here are your parts and pieces, and one of those is the graduation application. It's 1 page, it's on the registrar's office. You print that out, you fill in like 7 lines, you submit it, Christy signs off on it, she gives it back to you. Okay? So unique student teaching opportunities. Tomorrow at noon, I will be talking about some of these opportunities that are available to you as candidates. We have some that are direct partnerships where they may offer housing, they may offer a scholarship. The Montana Rural Education Association Teaching Fellowship Program offers a $1,500 fellowship stipend for you to student teach in a rural place in Montana, in hopes that possibly you would continue on with employment there. Wolf Point and Great Falls, they do offer housing opportunities for our candidates, so that's something to keep in mind. South Kitsap and Sunnyside, Washington, those are just schools that we work with. They hire our candidates all the time, very regularly. So we just like to place students there if that's someplace that they would like to go. Lake and Peninsula School District in King Salmon, Alaska is a direct partnership. We've worked with them for many, many years. You would student teach on the peninsula of Alaska in one of their villages. It is a very remote placement. We have a student who is student teaching up there right now. I believe her article or an article about her student teaching is on the website, so you can refer to that. And we have somebody going in the fall, and I already do know that there is somebody who is interested for next spring. We can send more than one student, so that's an opportunity. Global Gateways, Indiana University, that is for one of our international options if, fingers crossed, things open up and we can send you internationally. And then the American Creative Academy in Kuwait is an option. That's 8 weeks here and then 8 weeks in Kuwait. Your housing and flight are paid for to go student teach in Kuwait. Fingers crossed that's still going to be an option if borders open up. If you can attend tomorrow at noon, that would be wonderful. If you cannot, but you are interested in something out of state or have questions about out of state or any of these opportunities, just send me an email. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first 2 steps are done. Step 1, you attended an information session. Check it off. Haley, check it off. Check it off. And then step 2 is completing and submitting the intent to student teach form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the screen share and I am going to grab this Google form and put it into the chat for you all so that you can complete it. And because I am putting it in the chat, it will disappear if you leave the meeting, if you don't open it. So please click on it now and open it up so that you don't lose it. And then it's very simple. It's your name, your ID, email, your major, putting in your endorsement areas, and then your status, and then your preferred placement location. If you don't know, or if you change your mind, it's okay. This is just a general information, so I have a general idea of who may or may not be student teaching and where you may or may not be student teaching. It will be on your actual application that will tell me where you're wanting to go, but this is just a general idea of where you are hoping to go for student teaching. And if plans change, that's okay. Send me an email and let me know. We can always move your name somewhere else. And I actually see that people are already starting to fill this out because my little number response is getting bigger. So those of you that are just typing away, thank you so much. If you do not have any questions, you are free to go. If you do have questions, I will stay here. I'm going to stop recording so that if somebody has a question, we can have a conversation.